Hello and welcome. You're taking this course as one of the stipulations to get off of your AJR behavioral contract related to substance abuse. There are 3 units in total, and in this unit of the course, you'll be able to identify the specific impacts of vaping, marijuana, and general drug usage on the teenage brain. It will be helpful to have your handout in front of you, as you'll be able to complete it as we go through this presentation. The human brain develops from the brain stem outward. Each part of the brain has specific functions, and depending on the damage done to the brain while it's developing, a person may experience difficulty with various tasks. For example, the brain stem controls your heart rate, breathing, etc., while the parietal lobe controls your sense of taste, touch, and hand-eye coordination, like when you're playing video games or playing sports and catching a ball. The temporal lobe is located right above the brainstem and is most famously in charge of memory, but it also controls hearing, language acquisition, and smell. The occipital lobe is located in the back of your head. It controls sight and visual recognition. The cerebellum controls your sense of balance and muscle coordination. Again, something very necessary for sports. The frontal lobe is the last part of your brain to develop. It's not fully developed until at least 25 years old in males and 20 years old in females. The frontal lobe controls a lot. Along with walking and talking, as it develops, it impacts your personality, including the way you think, understand, and problem solve. Now, take some time on your handout to answer question number 1. Question number 1. Because of what you just learned about the frontal lobe, what are some tasks that a 17-year-old's brain would struggle to do? List at least 4 tasks. You may pause the video now to record your answer. Welcome back. On the previous slide, we just finished looking at a brief overview of brain development. The images on this slide show different images of the brain after different types of substance abuse and use. For example, this is an image from the top part of a normal brain. This is an image from the bottom looking up to the normal brain. Notice they show no signs of decay. Compare the normal brain to that of this image from a person who uses alcohol, heavy weekend use, for about 17 years. Now, take a look at the bottom right brain, and it shows the decay of the brain of a 16-year-old who had been smoking marijuana for 2 years. Depending on your own usage, there may be some similarities to your own brain. Given these images, answer question 2 on your sheet. Which of these substances have you used? How long have you been using them? Pause this video as you respond to these questions. Welcome back. So this slide is again a slide of the brain, but we will show you what happens to parts of your brain when exposed to various toxins. Like mentioned previously, the frontal lobe is the last part of the brain to develop, and the frontal lobe is not fully developed until at least 25 years old in males and 20 years old in females. So anyone under those ages does not have a fully developed frontal lobe. That means that the ability to problem solve and think deeply is not fully developed in a teenager's brain. So, drug usage impacts the growth of your frontal lobe, but even though the other parts of your brain are pretty much fully developed as a teenager, the other regions of your brain start to become damaged like you saw on the previous slide. You may know someone who struggles with substance abuse and struggles with tasks like memory, deep sleep, coordination, expressing themselves verbally. So this leads us to question number 3. On your sheet, answer the following questions. Which tasks do you currently struggle with? How could your struggles be explained from what you've learned about marijuana and brain development? Pause this video as you respond to these questions on your handout. Welcome back. There are a lot of misconceptions that exist around vaping. That includes vaping of e-cigs, marijuana, oils, etc. It's no secret that e-cigs have nicotine in them and vape oils contain cannabis. But what a lot of people don't realize is that the vape contains so much more than just the substance itself. Well, the cannabinoids and terpenes, meaning the stuff from marijuana that makes you high, while they may help with things like headaches, pain, etc., the other substances in them can cause headaches and other discomforts. So let's take a look at what's really in a vape cartridge. Glycerin has a syrup-like consistency. It's often added to processed foods to help keep it moisturized. Think of a wet bar of soap. It's slippery, and that slipperiness in it is the glycerin. Another additive is ethylene oxide. It's a sweet gas that's often used to clean and sterilize medical equipment. It is an extremely flammable substance and can also be found in thermobaric weapons, or explosives. This substance is popular in vapes because it gives off a slightly sweet odor. Another common additive is propylene glycol. It's used to make the liquid in the vape run through the vape cartridge more smoothly. It's also used as antifreeze in cars, can be found in makeup products, and in processed food. At room temperature, the FDA considers propylene glycol generally safe to be put into food products, much unlike those other substances found in vape cartridges. So, if the FDA approves of it, you're probably wondering why it's so bad. The problem with propylene glycol is that when it's heated, a vapor is let off. That's the cloud of smoke many people often associate with vaping. There have been reports that in vapor form, when heated, people and animals experience much stronger negative effects associated with propylene glycol. But ultimately, more research needs to be done in regards to this substance in vapor form. Without even specifically talking about the highly controversial effects of cannabinoids and terpenes, vaping is not safe. Continual vaping, even without cannabinoids and terpenes, during brain development leads to both visible and invisible symptoms. This list of dangers includes both of those. People often forget about the invisible symptoms of vaping, such as slower reaction time, emotional overreactions, lower IQ, and sensitization, where something small might happen, but it causes a large and dramatic or loud reaction. The visible symptoms are much easier to recognize, and those include skin discoloration and lung injury, among other defects. For someone whose brain has been exposed to these vape additives, let's look at how their behavior would differ in a classroom setting. For example, your teacher might tell you to stop your off-topic conversation during class. A person who's been exposed to these vape additives as a teen might respond by getting mad and or frustrated with the teacher, even though logically it's clear that the talking was disrupting the learning environment, and the student knows that talking off topic during it is not appropriate. We've discussed a lot during this unit. It's been a lot of input, and this is your final task to complete Unit 1. On your paper, list the various vaping dangers listed on the orange box on this slide under the part of the brain it is associated with. For example, the first danger on the list is respiratory irritation and lung injury. This is related to breathing, and the brainstem, I know from earlier in this lesson, is in charge of breathing. That's why this danger is listed underneath the brainstem. For your final tasks, complete this process with all the other dangers listed in the orange box. When you are done, please submit a hard copy of your responses, that worksheet you've been working on, to Ms. Boteo, Ms. Lira, or Ms. Flores. They will review your responses and provide you with information on how to access Unit 2. Thank you for listening.